My name is CHIEN MOTTO, and I was a resident of LAMA Foundation from the spring of 1971 until the fall of 1973. And during the time that I lived here, we celebrated the 5th anniversary. And I'm overjoyed to be able to participate in the 50th anniversary celebration. I was first drawn to LAMA by a very small image of the dome structure, and it spoke very, very deeply to me, and it was unlike any other image I had ever seen, and quite unusual from my Midwest upbringing, where anything of that sort was quite exotic. At that time, as I looked and meditated with that image of the dome, I could only feel my heart just wanting so much to experience whatever this place represented and what it is and was. And so there was a very strong intention to travel many, many miles to be able to be here, unlike some folks who just happen to be in Taos and then wander up the mountain kind of thing. So I'm very thankful for that calling, and it's hard to describe how deep of an impact LAMA Foundation has had on my life. At the time that I arrived, I was pretty spaced, ungrounded, and with the help of the community, I became much more present in my life and able to relate and be present, and I'm ever thankful for that. And then as I continue on thinking about my life after I left the foundation and what has transpired, the main word that comes up is abundance. There's been such an incredible abundance of beloveds through the years. I've always, with exception of a few years, I've always lived in the Taos area, and so I've had the opportunity and the privilege to know many, many, many of the generations through the span of timing up to this date. And the heart space that we all carry is so very potent and so very precious. And through this timing, in my life in Taos and association with the foundation, I had a partner and 2 children, and now have grandchildren. And it's an incredible delight to be able to bring them here and to watch them experience the openness and the caring that's here, that's unlike many other places in their lives and in anyone's life not here, really. So as I said, just so much abundance, and I can't begin to imagine what my life might have been like had I not been called to this mountain and this valley. The Taos Valley is a very sacred area, and my heart is full of gratitude, deep, deep gratitude. In terms of what the foundation has created that is sustaining, and the gifts that the foundation has offered to hundreds, thousands who have been here, and to the ones who may continue to come, is a is a very unique structure that is not tight as in a structured, but through the years various forms have evolved that have allowed deeper one-on-one communication and deeper group communication. And through the refinement through the years of these various forms, there's just been, I mean, it's such a gift. It's such a gift to all who come here, and it's a gift to the world that the ways in which there are tunings and openness of creating, of expressing feelings and acceptance of feelings, and Heart Club and the meditations and periods of silence and the deep winter retreats with just the community itself without other outsiders are all very profound forms in and of themselves that allow the foundation to be what it is today. And it's been interesting watching that evolution also of a certain rawness from when I first came, and to just be in wonder and awe of the way that the evolution has progressed through the years. I feel like that it's really a mystery what might transpire in the future. One moment to the next, we just don't know. And I feel like with the influx of energy from the Darga project, which is a very incredibly beautiful structure that is, the way I see, going to be a beacon and a light for many, many to come up the mountain. And I certainly see the Darga as being part of the evolution of the future.
What stands out for you as something important to share with future Lama beings?
With future Lama beings, yes. To come with an open heart and to know that there's going to be heart opening. That's just part of the process. And that there's a Sufi saying, to wipe the rust from the heart. And it's not always an easy process, but it's so very rewarding. And to trust in the process, and to trust in the consensus form and the forms that have created the beauty that's here. To just trust and to enjoy and have lots of fun. Feel your heart lighten up. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Harry Kenney. I used to live at Lama from 1984 to 1989, and I lived here with my wife, and we gave birth to 2 children here without water and electricity in a cabin in the woods, and that was awesome indeed. My time here with my family was most precious, and after having been away and reflected on my experience with Lama, Lama has been my mystery school. And what I mean by that, I'm a little full of emotion right now because I haven't been back in a long time, and it's so sweet being here again. So what I mean by mystery school is that it was unexpected, yet I was led here. And I had something to learn here, which I think I did, or learned part of. And and then when it was my time to go and make my space available for somebody else, it was 5 years, and we left and moved on. What was really important for me here at Lama, besides just being here, was the fact that I learned about higher consciousness. And I think that that's what Lama's contribution is to the world, is higher consciousness. And I don't even think, at least for me, I kind of knew it existed, but I don't think a lot of people even have an awareness of higher consciousness and what that means. And I had the opportunity to explore that and integrate it with my life and integrate it with my heart. And I have carried that from Lama. That has been my precious gift from the Lama Foundation, is the spirit of continuing to grow into my higher consciousness and also grow into my meditation practice, which is very dear to me at this point in time. At LAMA, I must say that I learned to meditate, even though I had meditated a little bit before then. I learned very much to appreciate nature, and probably most of all, I learned about relationships with other people. And that has been just a real heart opener for me. And I have been able to be with other people in a different way than I'd ever been in my life, with a sense of awareness that I never thought existed. And that has been very special to me. I think also, well, let me tell you just a short story, is that on my last day at LAMA here, it was just a couple of years before the fire, I took the whole day to walk all over LAMA. I was pretty invested in here after being here for 5 years. And of course, I still have a high sense of completion, and it was hard for me to leave here because I had so many little projects that were not complete. But walking around the mountain, I clearly got the message from whatever magical spirit that is caretaking this place. Excuse me. It's very dear to my heart, whatever it is. That's part of the ultimate mystery, is not even needing to know that it is what it is, just that it's here, and to be secure in that. And walking around, I got the message that it was all taken care of, that LAMA was going to do well without me, and new people needed to come on and learn what I had learned. And so I come back after not being here for many, many years, and actually I had been here shortly after the fire in 96, I believe it was, and I really haven't been back since. And so to come back since and be so welcomed by that Lama spirit, whatever that is, and the community, and to see the community is in the same, I want to say the same temperament that when I left, and still exploring themselves and still falling in love with each other and learning what that complicated word love means. And so I am in deep appreciation for being able to be here and being able to have had this experience in my life.
My name is ASHA GREER. When we started LAMA, my name was Barbara Durkee. I've had a lot of changes, but certainly LAMA influenced them tremendously. My husband and I, and my husband Steve Durkee, now Nuruddin Durkee, and Jonathan Altman made a plan together to start a community which was at one point gigantic. It had lots of lifestyles, lots of ways of living, lots of ways of building. But we got here and ended up with a mentor, because we were all in our early 20s, who told us that what we really had to do was start very small and modestly, and to be silent for half an hour a day, which was very much silence for us. Since that time, of course, we've been doing silent meditations at LAMA consistently, and I feel that it's one of the things that has kept us alive. Not that everybody who comes here does it, but basically people do now understand a lot more about meditation, because that was at a time in 1967 when the Eastern religions came and meditation became a word for what was for other people maybe prayer or contemplative prayer. And so having started this community, having lived in several small communities, we arrived here with some knowledge about how difficult community is. If you're in a real community where you're eating together all the time, particularly, and trying to get things done, there's a strong feeling of almost being married to everybody who's in the community. And so one of the things that has happened to me is that I have begun, one, expanding my heart so that I could accept everybody, And the other thing that happened for me was that I learned that everybody has a really beautiful face of God, you know, the benevolent God, not the malevolent God. Everybody has a beautiful face of God for about a month when you're in community at the most. And then the fangs come out because everybody has them. I mean, all the teachers who've come here have, one way or another, let us know that basically whatever enlightenment is, clarity, emptiness, luminosity, all of those are easy when the situation is easy, and when the situation gets hard with other people or with circumstances, there's always some outside force that can knock you off. So that was a very important thing, and I feel one of the major functions of LAMA throughout the years has been actually to show people who come up here with the idealistic thought that they were going to come to a utopia, that there is no such thing as a utopia. Because we all come here with our own baggage, and if we open the baggage and we empty the suitcase, then there can be clarity and choices about what to do next. What do I need? What do I want to put in here, instead of just letting the suitcase always have the same old baggage in it. So I think that the psychological basis of spirituality is a really, well, and the physical one too, the body, the heart, and the mind come together to make the spirit free. I don't think that my life could have been anywhere near as interesting as it's been if I had not lived at LAMA and watched several crops of people come and go, watched all these buildings come up, and the delight of having such a creative time together. I mean, both my ex-husband who started this, and it was his vision, by the way, that we could have, either of us, found the paths that we have found or had the same kind of life if we hadn't done this. I mean, it's so amazing to plant a seed, to take part with the seed, and then to watch it grow. Having recovered from my founder syndrome, where I used to come back here all the time and find all the things that were wrong rather than all the things that were right, I've now come to the conclusion that basically LAMA belongs to the people who live here, which was our original vision. The residents don't stay as long as we did. I mean, I think that basically unless somebody has been here for 5 years, they can't get the full transmission of what it is and how it grows and how it becomes stable and unstable. But I think that the one basic thing that's happened to everybody who's spent a winter here is some kind of deep-seated faith that people can get over anger, hatred, malaise, that there is hope that you can wake up. And by wake up, I simply mean that one can have faith, hope, charity, and love with enough time and training. It's harder probably here than any place in the world, just because everybody's on top of each other all the time, and there are strangers coming and going. But I don't even know if it's the words I just said so much as the sense that there's some other principle operating than money or success or beauty or physical beauty, that the beauty that happens here daily for some people, and people who come back here tell me all the time, I mean, the degree of gratitude that I receive for having been a founder of LAMA, when of course everybody who comes here eventually learns that they are part of this huge organism that nobody can take any kind of credit for, because the whole thing has been something of a miracle. I mean, yes, there was the vision, yes, there were the conversations, yes, there is consensus, which is one of the most challenging political systems in the world, because disagreements, and especially in this country where we're so spoiled and we're so fed and we get everything that we want in the United States. So I've come to see that everything that annoys me is a first world problem. I mean, almost every time I have an annoyance, I look and I think, first world problem, the end, forget it. You know, take care of yourself and be grateful. And I think that people, even when they don't get in, because there is a very difficult process that LAMA goes through. When we started, we would accept people and then we would kick them out if they didn't fit, which is basically what happens now. But it's a much more long process. People are given a week or two of torture before they're left, and they have to know all their flaws and all their virtues pretty well. I think probably in terms of the future of LAMA that it's got its own trajectory, but what I personally would really like to see is that the people here, actually the people who lived here, would have enough ease to begin to study comparative religion, comparative values within religion, and especially American vocabularies for what the other vocabularies are for waking up, because basically there are so many misinterpretations just because not all the people who do the translations are as awake. So that clarity, the sense of the moment, the poetic moment you could call it, or emptiness you could call it, where time stops in some way and you're living in a time where the magic is happening. You know, like this wind, which is probably wrecking your sound system, you know, but feel the wind, hear the wind, and suddenly you can feel your whole being be washed with this beautiful breeze and the sound of the trees. If you're busy thinking about this, that, or the other thing that's back then or in the future, forget it. You are not going to know that this wind did its little dance for you. And this is what life is so deeply about. And it's maybe because I'm older now and lazier, so I don't have all these things to do and all these buildings to keep clean or dishes to do. But honestly, that's one thing. And the other thing is that I feel like every single person who wants to start a community should spend a month here so that they can go to all of the stuff and find out what the structures here are like the Keeper of the Heart, which was invented by one of the communities here, where one person keeps the heart for maybe 20 minutes in any meeting. And so if things get out of hand, or the, let's call it the mood or the vibratory rate gets a little unfriendly, that they ring the bell and there's a minute of silence and everybody brings themselves back into their belly, into their heart, into their best feeling, into their knowledge of the fact that whatever it is that's making them be so angry is some old story. They don't have to keep it. And I think you get it. So I guess you could call it free therapy. It's not really free because you have to work your head, you know, everything. You have to put everything into your work wholeheartedly, or you really hate it here. So that's another hope I have, that people can recognize that and feel it. And I think another area is aesthetics. Everybody has a different aesthetic, and so anybody who comes up here can. Well, something I learned after about a year here was that every woman who came up had to move the sugar in the kitchen or do something in the kitchen to place a stamp, and the men had to pee, you know, find their places to pee and take care of things. So, because that's what we are, animals, and it's so great to be an animal. It's, you know, I mean, we were taught not to be animals, that we were humans, and we were much better than all the animals. But you watch the animals, and they do a lot better than we do. Number one, they're into survival, but they're not scared of death because they don't, you know, it happens. And I'm very much into the animal nature of us and how we can milk it a little more than we do, and how we can stop. So, first recommendation, stop. People ask me what I mean when I say stop, when I name my seminar Stop. They think it's an anagram for some other meaning. But it's not. It's just like, stop. Stop time. Stop thinking. Get into your heart. Get into your hara. This is what it's about here. Loving life and loving nature and loving everyone who comes up the hill, no matter how annoying they are. And there are many people who come up here who are very annoying. I was certainly annoying as a founder. When I had founder syndrome, I'd come up here and just complain and talk as though I knew everything. It was awful, you know, and it's kind of embarrassing. But now I don't have any kind of access to grind except a few. And I hope it goes on. 50 years is good. 100 years would be better. And the end.
My name is Roberta Sharples. I came to LAMA in the spring of 1995, which was a year before the fire. It was a bumper crop of stewards and residents, summer staff we called them back then, and I was one of 18 plus a small little girl who became a resident in that. And it was the right time for me. I had lived at Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts for the 2 or 3 years before that, and had established a Vipassana practice and was ready to start opening my heart and working with some of the armoring and some of the trigger points and things that community can help one work with. So it was perfect. And then I lived there 5 years. I was coordinator for the last 3 of those. The fire came in '96, and I was part of a lot of decision making with the circles and many circles within circles, which LAMA really recognized at that point. It was no longer just a resident circle. So it was a lot of stress, but also I felt a lot of love for LAMA. LAMA is a place that is really my spiritual home and has really allowed me to heal a lot of things with human beings. I have a very strong connection with the land and with things. I was part of the building of this eco-nest, teacher house. I have just so much love for LAMA, and I left in 2000 and came some summers, and then came back again in 2010 and started to come back summers, and then in 2014 became a resident again. So this is my 3rd year in this particular incarnation as a resident.
How might your life have been different if you hadn't found LAMA?
I think my life would have been a lot drier, probably much more solitary, and I've always been a person who has needed the eclecticism of the perennial religion. And I was raised Catholic, and the Buddha was the first teacher that really spoke to me besides nature. Taoist nature was also very big. And then when I came to LAMA, the Sufi element came in, and I really feel that my life is about that place where we get beyond dogma, we get beyond a teacher, a guru, and really come together as a human family and learn to be truly what a human being is meant to be. And so LAMA has really helped me in that way. And I think a more traditional Vipassana practice or even a livelihood that was devoted toward spiritual practice in a different way would not have opened me in the same heart way that LAMA has opened me.
What do you see as LAMA's most vital contribution to the world?
We live in a time of tribalism. We live in a time where people are looking for enemies to unite them. And LAMA is a place that looks to make connection. It looks to see the other as myself. It looks to teach not by talking and not by any particular set of beliefs, but through the natural, spontaneous presence in community and the natural presence in nature. And I feel like in this disconnected time, when people are disconnected from nature, they're more on their electrical devices, when people are not able to even connect with people, LAMA is essential. And we are not a tribe, we're a humanity. And I do feel that is the way that we need to go to heal our planet and our societies.
What do you envision happening for LAMA in the next 50 years?
I'd like not to envision. I'd like to be present in the moment. And I'd like to let, some part of the dilemma that it is to be a resident, even in different eras, is that the new residents are always afraid that you're going to be pushing an old Lama on them and bringing in some nostalgia. And when I came to Lama, it was wonderful, but then there was the fire and there was devastation. So there's no good old days for me. There's only what we make in this present moment to heal ourselves and do the work that it takes to really know ourselves and to know one another. And so I see Lama just continuing in that. The mission statement is the most beautiful. I was here in '97 when we revised it to a small, one-sentence statement, and that vision statement still says it all to me. We're here for the awakening of consciousness, for respect for spiritual practice and all traditions, for service and stewardship of the land. And I do believe that that's where we're working, and that's where we need to work, and what the form will be is irrelevant.
What stands out for you as something important to share with future Lama beings?
Lama is what you make it. And I think one of the most important things I've learned here, and it's reflected in all traditions, is 100% accountability. So there's no situation that is forced on us. There's no situation that we can't, if we bring enough consciousness, choose how we will work with that situation, whether it be a personal fire or a cataclysmic fire or dynamics with another human being or whatever it is. It's 100% accountability is the way to love, and I think that's what we're all after here.
My name is WILSCHINSKY, and I first got here in 1971 and stayed here probably through 75, and then went from this communal family to nuclear family, moved down into Taos, and for the next, I guess, 15 years came up every summer for 3 months. So I had a lot of connection to Lama even though I was living in Taos. It was a very important chapter. I learned a lot about living with people and milking goats and fixing things and looking at incredible views and meeting many, many different kinds of spiritual teachers and some really cool people.
What do you see as Lama's most vital contribution to the world?
Wow. A place to be where people can learn to be themselves.
What do you envision happening for Lama in the next 50 years?
Holy cow. It would be wonderful if it stayed like it was. If people, I mean, it should evolve, but I mean a place that people could come to and live together in harmony and peace and learn about living.
What stands out for you as something important to share with future Lama beings?
Whoa. I'd say, give them heaven. God knows why I remember the story, but one night, Blue and I were coming up from the dome, and the stairs are much more rickety than they are now. They were just stones, and we hit this warm wall, and it was Emma, the cow, who'd gotten loose from the barn, and it was totally pitch dark, and we didn't want her to break her legs, so we spent the night, which was freezing, with our arms around her neck, keeping her from walking anywhere, because we were terrified she might break her legs. And then the next time we went into the barn, she remembered somehow. She was very friendly. And then on Christmas Day, she had a calf. We didn't even know she was pregnant. She was so big. And we called it Chegyam Trumpa. We called it Chegyam Christmas. Chegyam Christmas was the name of the calf. That's the cow adventure. Another story I remember was, it was probably during the 70s, during the disco era, and about 5 or 6, maybe 8 guys went down to a disco party at some art gallery, and we backed the truck up. We had a pickup truck, and some of us were sitting in the back, and we backed the truck up, and the rear wheels went off of a cement embankment. and we were stuck, but we went to the party anyway. When we came out, what are we going to do? So we decided to lift the truck. So there were enough of us that we actually lifted the truck. And then the person who was driving had the wheels spinning, and they went across the street and hit one of those curved wooden pillars, and we shattered it. So we drove up to LAMA and into the shop we had, and we made one that night, all of us working together, and came down the next morning, and about 8 o'clock, as the proprietor was coming to her shop, we just put it in place, and she didn't even notice anything had happened. So it was that group consciousness, that group working together, that was that story means to me.
I will ad lib and say, are there certain teachers that came here that really spoke to you and caused some course correction in your life?
Every single one. One that was important to me was Zalman Schachter, a famous rabbi. He's passed on now. He came here, and somehow they put me with him as his guide. And I was working on the dome here. I was helping to build the eyebrows, you know, the tutu that runs around the dome to keep the rain from going right on the walls. And we talked, and since I came out of the Jewish culture, he was surprised that I was into the trades, doing carpentry, stuff like that. And he explained to me that in the old country, a lot of grandmothers would tell their children, don't marry somebody in the trades, because if there was a pogrom, if there was an attack, you couldn't take your job with you. If you had a foundry or a shop or something like that, you had to leave your occupation. So they said only marry someone who was a doctor, lawyer, a tailor, something like that. So within the Jewish culture, he said that the trades fell by the wayside. And I was always interested in that kind of stuff, so he was interested that I was getting back into the trades and doing construction. I took him to a peyote meeting, and he wore his hat. And some of the other members of the church were concerned about that, the newer members, and they said, you're supposed to have your hat off. And little Joe said, it's his head. So that's what I remembered. And then we took little Joe up here for Shabbos, and he saw us all having the ceremony and eating. He said, you know, this Jewish way, it's eating way. I remember that.
My name is Anissa Cox, and I was born here in 1980 in the winter. And I think we lived here maybe my first year. I think we left in 1981, and then would always spend summers here for the rest of my growing up years.
In the arc of your life, what did LAMA mean to you?
I think LAMA was really sort of foundational for my family. It was the place where our traditions were created. So the songs that we sang and the ways that we shared meals and the way that my mom taught me about the world, about community, about people, really came from the traditions that happened at LAMA and from her experiences at LAMA. I think in many ways she really grew into her adulthood here, and you know, had my brother here from ages 5 to about 10. So raising kids here, and you know, coming from the Midwest and being a Buddhist and developing her practice. So LAMA was this really incredible foundational sort of anchor in our lives always, and a place that we always return to. And in fact, she moved back here in her early 50s for a few years later, so when I was an adult. So, yeah.
How might your life have been different if you hadn't found LAMA? Or in your case, LAMA found you?
Right, it's kind of hard to answer that question since I was born here. You know, I think being a kid who grew up with a sense of being outside of the mainstream, you know, being outside of a traditional world and a traditional set of values, and that there was a more dynamic, creative space around identity and around family and around community. So I think, you know, when I go out in the world and I tell people I'm from a hippie commune, they don't really know what that means. My students don't even know what that word means often. And so we get to talk about, you know, what it's like to not necessarily resist culture, but I think my mom came here to step outside of the mainstream. And so being a kid, knowing that it's okay to step outside of the cultural paradigm that we're in, that it's okay to have a different vision that might be based in harmony and love and cooperation and, you know, anti-capitalist in some way. And really for me, aside from that philosophical, bigger stuff, connection to the natural world has been really, Lama was a really big part of that for me. So growing up as a kid here, when the forest was a bit different, you know, we got to just come back for dinner or come back for lunch, and we had this massive forest to play in and imagine in and be a part of, and you know, to be here in the winter and be in the deep snow and be in these tiny little houses and carrying water and the kerosene lamps and like all these things that were really so intimate with the natural world and so connected to that. So for me, that's a thing that is always with me. And you know, it's a good lesson, you know, my name means impermanence, so it's a good lesson to think about how things change, but I often come up here and I grieve the forest. Every time I drive up the road, I feel this sense of, like, that was a presence and a being in my life that I was so intimate with for my young years that I really miss. You know, I miss the little houses, I miss the paths, I miss knowing every little trail and every flower bed and, you know, all the spots, the water, where the water was, what, you know, what the wind sounds like in these beautiful ponderosas. So for me, sort of in my interior, I think the natural world was Lama's had a big impact. You know, because when you're a kid, it's like, adults are very different. You don't understand adult land like you do when you become one. So there was sort of adult land operating up here, and then for us kids, it was just ultimate freedom, you know. And I got to come up in the summers and have, what did we call them? Maybe my liaisons or something. So my mom would come up for a month or something, and I would often be here for 2 or 3 months on my own, and would have adults that would sort of keep track of me, but I would have my own tent, and you know, I would have to plug in and do some seva, but that sense of autonomy and freedom, and my mother was really unique in that way. She trusted me completely, and she gave me open range to, you know, I was 11 years old living at Lama. She knew I had 20 other adults looking out for me, but that I was gonna learn to be in the world in my own unmediated way. And I think maybe that Lama offers that to adults too, to have an unmediated experience with self, with earth, with seasons, in a way that I don't think our culture acknowledges or supports much. So, yeah, I think that's enough on that.
What do you see as Lama's most vital contribution to the world?
Well, it was interesting sitting in the dome for Shabbat and hearing people speak about what Lama gave them. And I was in a circle with Sita, and she said it was 2 things. One was my birth, and that she was at my birth, and it was the only birth she's ever been to this day. So I think, you know, for me, I guess that's a hard question for me to answer too. I think Lama has shaped these generations of people that go out in the world and are more attuned to self, to practice, and to how that might really inform their lives outside of this place. You know, how that might inform their work. You know, someone was joking that a lot of people who come out of Lama end up as like therapists or, you know, things like this, like teachers, going out in the world in a way that offers service to our communities, that offers a consciousness around practice. You know, and I think the work that, you know, people like Mirabai are doing to think about this inter-spirituality, this interfaith, to sort of get us away from this sense of spirituality as dogma, but rather that our practice is liberatory and expansive and dynamic, and that can inform what we do as people in the world, as practitioners, you know. And certainly people work through their stuff here, right? I think it's a really healing place for many. I remember Shu came here and I was a kid and people didn't know what to do with him, and I remember as a kid he would sit under the willow tree and weep every single day for hours, and Lama held a space for that, and it freaked some people out. But there was a space for that, and he came through that and, you know, went and became a counselor, or, you know, went to Naropa, like, has this successful life, successful, whatever that means, but maybe wouldn't have survived if it hadn't been for Lama, and I think to varying degrees that's true for a lot of people who came here, that they wouldn't have survived if it hadn't been for this place. So, and certainly my own family wouldn't have been as interesting or whole, or I wouldn't have had this many adults who are part of my story and a part of a broader community in a way that's outside of my own family. And I think we need that. I think, you know, when I moved to New England, people are very insulated in these tiny family groups, and I don't relate to that because my family is anyone that's ever lived here, and we hold that for each other as we go out in the world. And I think that vision is really critical right now. So.
What do you envision happening for Lama in the next 50 years?
I think Lama's a place to look inward, but I think its work now is to look out. I think that, you know, in the communities I was a part of on the East Coast, there were people who wanted to live in collectives and often felt like a place like this wouldn't be welcoming because they're people of color, they're urban people. And so to break away from only upper middle class white people coming to Lama, to do work around sustainability, around justice, around peace, and to take that out, I think, is really vital for all of us right now. If we think about the political landscape that we're in, the social landscape, the economic landscape that we're in, those of us who have a sense of love and grounding, it's our work to give that and to take that forth. And so I hope more and more that Lama does that. You know, it's, I think there's a lot of people, even in this area, who've never been here, who don't even know about it. And I think Lama's probably already moving in that direction, you know, so that's my sense of it. But thinking about how we might put into practice some of those spiritual lessons that you can learn here and grow from here, inside of our communities, in our families, in the world. I think when we have practice, we understand something about peace. You know, at least that was always my experience of inside my own family, like knowing that there's this place in each of us that's whole, that is divine, that's connected to spirit. In this world that's really working to disconnect us from that knowledge. And can we hold that? And can we take that forth? Can Lama do that? Can Lama more and more continue to be a force for that? You know, I think as our infrastructure and our social systems are crumbling right now, Lama provides a really unique vision of how community might work, how we might cooperate and collaborate with each other and grow together, with food, with housing, with our hearts, with our families. So I hope that that's what Lama continues to head towards in the world.
What stands out for you as something important to share with future Lama beings?
Oh my goodness. Don't let your personality get in the way. You know, don't let your ego stand in the way. Like, learn how to let go. You know, you live in a community and we get possessive of our space, of our time, of our values. Lama's a place to let that go and to get softer and to get more open and to get more refined and to get more tender and more vulnerable. And you get to step away from the world when you live here and do that. So dive in. Like, don't be afraid to let go of some of the things you think you know about yourself. I saw that as a kid. I saw a lot of adults do that. I saw how much conflict that created for them and for the people around them. So with that kid vision, you know, just be nice to each other. Be softer, be more open. Don't be attached to who you think you are every minute.